Hi ladies, this is Mrs. Blaufuss. Today is October 2nd. So these are the notes for geometry for October 2nd. So just to start, this is a little bit of review. So we have 3 new vocabulary terms, but in these first 6 problems, I want you to just identify the angles just by observing whether they're acute, obtuse, right, or straight. So take a minute to do that on your own, and you can pause the video while you work and unpause for the solutions. So number 1 is obtuse, 2 is acute, 3 is obtuse, 4 is acute, 5 is a straight angle. That would measure 180 degrees. It's a straight line. And number 6 is a right angle. Just by looking at it, it looks like a right angle. Now, if you were asked to draw a conclusion or mark the diagram without actual evidence that this is a right angle, if you're drawing a conclusion, then you cannot just assume that. But here we're just looking at angles and making observations. If you were to mark that as a right angle, you would make sure that you put that little box there. You can use your protractor to double check. Acute angles, remember, measure less than 90 degrees. Right angles measure 90 degrees. You can use a straight edge to check number 5, but it will measure 180 degrees. And then remember, obtuse angles measure greater than 90 degrees. So you can use your protractor to double check all of those angle measures, but just by observation, though, that's what those angles look like. In this next section, we have a little bit of algebra review. So it says the measure of angle J is 84 degrees, and we need to solve for y. Anytime you're solving for y, you need an equation. So we'll do number 1 together, and then you can do the second one on your own. So we know that the measure of angle J is 84 degrees, and we also know that the measure of angle J is 2y minus 8. So we're going to make an equation so we are able to solve for y. If we have one variable, we need one equation. So let's go ahead and solve for y. 2y minus 8 equals 84. To solve for y, we can add 8 to both sides. And we get 2y equals 92. And then we can divide both sides by 2 in order to isolate y. And we get y is equal to 46. So pause the video while you work, and you can unpause for the solution. Okay, then our second equation is 5x minus 7 is equal to 138. We add 7 to both sides and then divide by 5, and we get x is equal to 29. Okay, our next section in the note sheet, if you're following along on the October 2nd note sheet, which you can find on my DSHA, is these 3 terms that were our new vocab terms for this lesson. Construction tools, drawing tools, and sketching. So constructing, drawing, and sketching are all just a little bit different. The main difference is the tools that you use. So construction tools would be a compass and a straight edge. So you would not use a ruler. You would obviously use a pencil too or something to write with, but you would not use a ruler and you would not use a protractor. Okay, so these are non-measurement tools. Okay, those are the tools that you use when I say, or when instructions say to construct something. Drawing tools would be measurement tools. Okay, so if you were to draw something, I would maybe say draw a 45-degree angle with a side length of 3 centimeters. Okay, you would use a ruler to get your 3 centimeters, and you would use a protractor to get your 45-degree angle. And sketching, you're just freehand, pencil only, no specific tools. So in this lesson, one of the goals is to construct a duplicate angle. So we're going to use our construction tools, which is just our compass and our straight edge. So to start, we're going to draw an angle. Now I ask you to draw an acute angle just because it's, I think, a little bit easier, but you can, if you want to draw an obtuse angle, the steps are exactly the same. Okay, so I'm just going to draw an acute angle and label that angle P. Okay, so there's an acute angle. I'm going to label it P, and then I'm going to follow the steps below. So step number 2 says use the straight edge to draw a ray with endpoint T on your note sheet. So here's a ray. Doesn't matter how or where you draw it, but it's going to have endpoint T. Then it says with your compass and angle P, the one we just labeled above, we're going to set the center of our compass and draw a large arc that intersects both of the sides. So here's my compass. I'm going to draw an arc so that it's centered at P, which means that's where the point of my compass is. And I'm going to draw it so that it intersects both of the sides. Okay, so that's as far as I need it to go. And then I'm going to, with the same radius, so the same width setting, I'm going to move that down to my ray T, and I'm going to draw another arc. Okay, so I kept my radius the same. And it says label those points Q and R. Doesn't matter which one is Q or R, just as long as those intersection points are Q and R. Okay, then step 4, it says use the same compass setting to draw a radius from T. So that's what we did down at our ray. So the center of our compass was at T. We drew an arc. It just has to be wide enough so that when you duplicate the second ray, it'll go through the arc. Now we're going to change our compass setting. So just so you can see, I'm going to change the color too. And it says put the center of the compass on R and the pencil tip at Q. Okay, so my center is at R. I'm going to turn my compass so that the tip is at Q. You might have to resize it depending on your angle. And I'm going to draw a small arc there just so I can see that Q is the intersection of those two arcs. Then on the ray that I drew down here at the bottom of my paper, with the same compass setting, I'm going to draw an arc that intersects that. Okay, so we did step 5. Step 6 is draw an arc that intersects that. So this is point S, we should have labeled it. And then this intersection is going to be point U. And then our last step, we're going to draw a ray from T through U. Now, if I use my protractor, I can measure these two angles. Mine's a little glitchy, but it should be pretty close. So I'm going to use my protractor and I'm just going to double check the size of my two angles. Okay, so when you use your protractor, remember that you're putting that circle or the center Okay, so this is about 60 degrees. And then I'm going to measure my second angle that I duplicated, and it should be the same. Might be off just a little bit because of always there's going to be a little bit of variance when you do things manually. 58 degrees, that's pretty close. Okay, so that's how you're going to duplicate an angle. So please jot down any questions you have. You can find the homework on my DSHA. It's also linked to the assignments. And jot down any questions and then bring them to class and we can address them next time I see you. All right, thank you, ladies.